They may be continuing to inflict pain on each other by ramping up tariffs on hundreds of billions of dollars of goods that they trade with each other. But the US and China are still talking to each other. And yet US President Donald Trump is determined to keep the tone and keep the pressure up against China in an effort to change what he calls unfair trade practices. Here's the US President before he departed for Louisiana.
I think we're winning it. We're going to be collecting over $100 billion in tariffs. Our people, if they want, they could buy from someplace else other than China, or they can really, the ideal is make their product in the USA.
But international trade is never that simple, and Trump was in Louisiana to visit a new liquefied gas plant right at the time that the US is celebrating its energy revolution that's seen it come from nowhere to become one of the biggest exporters of LNG in the world, and at a time when China is becoming the second biggest importer of this commodity. And yet China wants to hit the US with tariffs of 25% on those gas exports. This at a time when US gas exports to China have fallen dramatically as this trade war has escalated. China is determined to prove that it can buy its products elsewhere. And it's not just gas. Soybean prices in the rural Midwest of America have fallen to an 11-year low, with China dramatically cutting the amount it buys from the United States. And China's foreign ministry wanted to remind the US that it can source its goods elsewhere.
We advise the U.S. to take heed of the reaction from the international community, listen to people from all walks of life, consider how its own interests could benefit or be harmed, form a clear understanding of the current situation, and come back to the right track as soon as possible.
But commodities aren't the only ones involved in all of this. Many US companies are also trying to cope with the fallout of this escalation in the trade battle between the US and China. Take Apple, for example. We know already that iPhone sales have been slowing somewhat. China is a major manufacturer of the iPhone and supplier for Apple. And Apple is, many analysts say Apple will suffer from higher prices should this trade war continue. Boeing as well exports its products to China. According to one influential Chinese newspaper, China is considering cutting its purchases of Boeing products. But at least these two sides are talking to each other. At the last G20 summit in Argentina, President Xi Jinping of China and Trump negotiated a truce in this trade battle, which led to this current round of negotiations. Trump and Xi will meet again at the next G20 summit in Japan in June, and many optimists are hoping that these two men can resolve this trade conflict. Back to you.